Hello everybody, we have a new game with the black pieces on our speedrun against Mashir Ramen. The name actually looks familiar. It's possible we played him in the past, maybe on the last speedrun, or I'm just making that up. Either way. White develops a piece towards the center, and this is some type of English opening. We'll play e5 and just put a pawn in the center. Okay, so now he plays the e4 pawn, so he has both of these. This creates a strong clamp on the square, but it does give up a square on d4 for me. So there's give and there's take. I want to put my bishop here, so that's what I'm going to do. And just start looking at that weakness that he created. So he goes h3, maybe stopping a potential bishop g5, bishop g4. So I'm just going to close the pawn chain now that I move my bishop. And if he tries to hunt it, I can stick it in here maybe. Okay, so he goes a3. Maybe he's trying to kick the bishop with b4. In either case, I'm going to play a5, which stops b4 and kind of helps cement the bishop on the square. It also helps gain some space on the queen side. The downside of my move is that, as opposed to a6, is that I'm letting one of his pieces jump to this square. But I don't think it's going to be a big problem. That's why I'd rather go a5 than a6. So white goes d3. This just cements his pawn structure in the center. So he's playing just with control of this square. And now it's our turn. I just want to castle. Keep things simple. White develops his bishop to an active post, pinning the knight. Maybe with ideas of utilizing the pin. So in that case, to keep his knight out of this square, I'm going to play c6 so he can never jump it in. And you see he can never play c3, stopping a piece from coming here because he already played c4. Okay, so he develops a knight. But now if there's no pressure on this pin, you don't really want to give up your bishop for the knight if you're not going to double the pawns. So I'm going to develop this knight and protect my other knight. Okay, so he lifts his queen up. Maybe he's preparing queenside castling. That's a possibility. I want to move my queen. And I want to move my... Hold on. Let me not auto move. Let me use a little bit of time and think. Adjust my monitor to the right height. What exactly do I want to do? You could play a move like a4, gaining space. You could play... Let's start with h6. See what he wants to do. Okay, so he moves back. Fine. Now he's no longer on this diagonal. And now let's move our queen. To support the center and just get it out of the way of this pin. So it's on a safe square, right? Okay, so he goes here. Maybe now he wants to castle the other way. My knight is no longer in a pin, so I could potentially move it. And if we're here, push, takes. And I'm going to go rook b8. It may look weird to you, but my pieces are on like decent squares, right? There's not any open files for my rooks that you want to like hurry and bring it to. And so I'm preparing b5 pawn break, getting rid of one of his pawns controlling here, which would allow for a future d5 pawn break. So I'm trying to just break this down. I'm attacking his pawns. So he's castling, and I have no real potential to attack his king, so I have to attack his pawns. So let's play b5, create space for our rook, and attack his pawns. If you can move this d pawn, his other central pawn on e4 becomes weak. Okay, so he captures. This releases some control here, which is nice. And now we can recapture. We can recapture here, there, there. Okay, we're going to recapture with the pawn. He can jump his knight in here, but we can take it. Okay, so he goes here trying to copy our idea with pushing the pawn forward. But it looks a little too slow. It looks like we can go first, right? And if he jumps to the side, hitting our bishop, maybe we can drop the bishop all the way back. And if he takes our pawn, we take his pawn. That looks reasonable. What else? If we push in the center. That's weird. Does that work though? If we push in the center and he takes this knight and we take back and then he takes here, I mean we have this. It seems kind of unnecessary. I just want to go with my first idea and just push these pawns that I'm clearly prepared to push. Okay, so he takes instead of throwing in the knight a4 move. So this definitely doesn't cause me any problems. Now I can take with the bishop. Should I take with the bishop? If I take with the pawn, he has to move his knight. And then these pawns are staring at each other. That's one thing. If I take with the bishop, he could just move his queen. I'm going to take with the bishop and just open up some space for my pieces. Protect this pawn this way. Keep these on differing files, the pawns. Okay, so he x-rays my queen. I definitely don't want to keep my queen here. So where do we want to move it? What's the most forward active square that doesn't run into trouble? This one runs into trouble, so this one. He can't bring his bishop back on this diagonal, so this seems like a good diagonal to be on. Protects my pawn, which I can push. It supports a bishop maneuver. Okay, so he moves his queen over, which maybe he's trying to bring it over to this side. That's fine. I'm now going to use this opportunity to go g4, which may look crazy, but he just moved his queen away from this diagonal. So, whereas before he could maybe sack a piece and get a queen there. Oh, well, I was going to sack a piece anyway. Okay, but at least his queen's not on g5. It's a bishop, so that's something. Okay, so now let's not lose the game. Okay, so he can't do anything unless he brings his queen in. So how do we get our queen in? Or how do we stop it? Let's go knight h2. I think this is a good defensive maneuver that you should have in your arsenal when people sack. When you do that, is knight h2 is often a move. In this case, it comes with a tempo move, but that's normally it doesn't, and you still play it. Okay, but he hits our queen. But now I'm just gonna like snake my queen in this way, or maybe yeah. I'm just gonna go through here. His rook is not, excuse me, his rook is not staring. His queen is. Okay, so he moves his knight, but this offers a queen trade. So I'm gonna go for it since I have 2 minutes and I'm up a piece. So I don't have a lot of time to think, so I'll just take the trade. Now I want to develop my least active piece, so let's go here. Hopefully I'm not walking into dangerous forks. Here, here. He gets a bishop, I get a rook. He gets a rook, I get a bishop. He gets a knight, he's up a piece there. So if he goes here, I have to maybe move my bishop somewhere else. Okay, so he challenges my dark square bishop. Let's auto trade because we're up a piece. It brings his rook off of the open file, so that's not Good for him. Okay, let's bring this knight back into the game. Least active piece. So without calculating, we're doing principle of least active piece. He gives us a check. We'll go here just to avoid that check. His knight's kind of stuck. I mean, he can go here, but it's a weird spot. Because it's not coordinating, so it's... He brings his rook back. I'm just going to hit the knight to see what he wants to do with it. If he goes this towards the king, I don't know if that's going to work for him. He is attacking this pawn, so let's just take out one turn to defend, and then we can move this rook to an open file. He has no attack on my king, so if I can just consolidate, I should win the game. So moves I'm looking at are like this, to blockade his weaknesses, and then I want the other rook in the game as well. I really like that this diagonal is a thing. Oh, and also I have this tactic, right? I can take this pawn, because if he takes my knight, I can take his bishop. I had that last turn, although this was hanging, so the lines are more complicated, so whatever, this is fine. And okay, so now he only has one pawn for the extra knight. I don't think he wants to give up his bishop, which he does, because that's a strong piece. He can take this pawn now, but I did get his bishop, and this gives me further trades. Let's just do it. He's gonna take. I'm gonna let him take this pawn. It comes with this threat, which is annoying. I do want to let him take it though. Well, I guess. Okay. Okay, for one turn I'll just go here then. I wanted to just let him take this because I don't care, and I wanted to go like here, but then he has this fork of oops. He has this fork of the king and the rook. Okay, so he goes there protecting the pawn, but that's super slow. Okay, so how do I get my pieces in the game? Let's go where should we put the knight? I don't know, just put it anywhere. Just move it forward. Okay, we'll take this pawn just so he never has like a queening possibility there. We'll just move our knight forward. He doesn't have any pawn weaknesses, which is kind of annoying. So I guess we just have to try to take his pieces as fast as possible. But we only have a minute, so I've been taking way too long with my moves. As far as mating nets go, unless I get my king to this square, the dark square, I guess I could get a knight there with some king support here, but that's optimistic. Okay, so I'm just going to pin the knight because it looks interesting, no calculation. If my goal is to trade these two pieces and just be up a piece, that might make the conversion easier. You still have to be careful because it's two pawns for the piece, so you wanna keep both your pawns so you can queen one, because if you only have a bishop left, you can't checkmate him. So the conversion process is a little tricky. You got to get your king very active. Move my king a little forward. Just move my knight to some random square. I want to attack this knight another time. How do I do that? It's on a dark square, so I would need my knight. That's a lot of rerouting. So maybe just attack this. Then he has to move his rook, but his knight's hanging. So yeah, just attack this weakness. I wanted to attack the knight, but it's just... When a knight is 2 squares diagonal from another piece, it takes 4 turns to reach that square. So it would take me 4 maneuvering turns to attack the knight. That's too many turns. So the only other thing you can attack is this. So let's attack it. If he goes here, that's just hanging a pawn. and I'll just go right back. I'm not going to take with the king and... Hold on. He moves his king up, but I don't see what this does because, again, if he checks me, I can still take with the pawn. His knight doesn't have any checks, so his rook always hangs with the arrow. And I might have a mating net now that he's walking his king into my pieces. Although I have less than a minute, so I'm not going to look for it. I was going to go back anyway, but now it just comes with a free pawn. And now I get to take this, which is nice. Because his rook is hanging. Let's give this check. And now we take the rook. And now we try not to flag. I need to just sack my rook for his knight, and everything is easy. Fork square is covered. I'm not blundering. I just want to take his knight. He has no more checks. There's a check from me. There's another check. We'll advance the knight. We'll lift the rook. His knight. Uh-oh, whoops. Let's attack the knight. I need this. Wait, I don't need the pawn. I mean, I just need. If I'm up a rook, I can. That works. Let's not blunder anything. Let's. He goes here, but check. There we go. That's what I wanted. That's what I wanted. Just to get the pin. Just to take it. And push this guy off the board. He could take my knight. We make sure he does not go there. And so we don't stalemate him. And then we get the queen. So we shouldered his king. And with 28 seconds, we managed to win. Okay. Taking a resign. Why would you stop now? You make automatic moves the whole time. Or you're moving fast, and then you just stop now. You're so mad. He's so mad. How mad is he? So mad. That's how mad. Everything will be okay, monsieur. You could hit the button. Click the little flag icon. And now he moves trying to just trick me on the clock or something. The worst. People are the worst. So a knight moves away. Just closes the box. So let's say he goes here and you go a knight move. Like he goes here, we go a knight move. And it just creates a smaller box. A smaller box. A smaller box. That's all it does. Knight move away. Smaller box. Knight move away. Now he's on the first ranks, right? Smaller box. Smaller box. Bring in the king so you don't stalemate him. Because if you go one more knight move, then he's stuck in the corner and that's stalemate. So you stop here. You bring the king in to support the checkmate squares. And then you pre-move the furthest square away checkmate, because that's the most humiliating one. As he stops. He offered me a draw. Should we take it? How many of you think I'm going to take it? Yeah, exactly. Not going to take it. Let's go through the game. We have development and center. We have center and development. We have development and center. We have center and development. Now we have prophylaxis, because if we don't do anything, he's going to kick our bishop, right? And then try to attack it. Then king safety. And this comes with a threat, so we can't ignore it and just do what we want. What's the threat? The knight jumping in here. I mean, it's as long as our knight is on b8, we can deal with it, because we can put our knight here, right? So as long as we don't play knight c6, we should be fine. But I play c6 anyway, just to stop his knight from ever using these squares. But yes, if you have knight d7, knight b d7, you should be able, the pin should be neutralized. Okay, so this is center, development, development, center. And this is attacking pieces that are on our side of the board, because it's our territory. This is development and breaking the pin. And this is a form of development. Like I said, our rooks have no open or semi-open files. There's nowhere to go, no matter where you put them. You're never going to push this pawn or this pawn. So you have to basically push your b pawn. This is your pawn break as black. So, I mean, potentially f5 if you want to. I don't know, that would take forever to set up, and your king is super weak. So basically, you're going to go for b5. So you want to prepare it. It also, moving this pawn is another way to develop this bishop, like I did in the game. He castles, and boom. Development, our pieces are more active. Our queen, all of our pieces have way more scope right now, behind the pawns. And we're attacking his strong center. Force move, and things are looking nice. This looks like a plan. So we attack now that all of our pieces are reasonably developed. I mean, maybe you could start with something like this, but you have to make sure he's not going to blockade you. So we just start with this, because there's no point in rushing with the bishop development. Recapture, opening up a square for the knight. We don't want to stay in alignment, because that's generally asking for trouble. So we try to stay active though. And then, because he came off this diagonal, like if he was still here and I went here and then he sacked the bishop, or maybe the knight, and I took, and he takes with the queen check. I mean, then you go king h1. If he gives you a check again, you go knight h2. And you might be fine, but that's you have to move by move it 1000%, and it's a lot scarier than if his queen does not recapture here. So as soon as he moved his queen over, I mean, I was going to make a normal move at first, like bishop a6, developing my least active piece, connecting the rooks, putting pressure like this. Looks pretty nice. But I said, I kind of want to move this knight somewhere, and I don't want him to take this and double the pawns. So let me just go g5 and break this pin this way. That's why I did it. And I thought, if he goes back here, well, then I can attack the bishop, right? He doesn't have time to do anything on this side, because the bishop's actually hanging, because he cannot recapture, because it's pinned. So if I did this, I thought he was going to go back. I was going to attack it. He would have to go back if he saw the threat. And then I could potentially develop my bishop, or even maybe knight f4, but maybe that's a little premature. Either way, he didn't. He sacked. We take, he takes, and now you want to try to resolve this situation as fast as possible. So you don't want to just casually develop. You want to make sure you're not going to get checkmated. So we go to this defensive posture, which gives your king a place to hide, and this knight always provides protection from a piece here. He immediately moves it, although maybe he should have protected it with the queen. And now I'm just trying to snake my way in so I can get some defense in case he tried to come this way. But then he goes for the queen trade and I go for it. And since I have no time on the clock, I just start trying to trade everything immediately. I definitely didn't play perfectly accurate, but who cares? And then I noticed this tactic here. Always looking for tactics. He trades some stuff. He goes for further trades. And now we're just up a piece. As long as you don't lose all of your pawns, you should be fine. So that's basically the game. Hopefully you guys learned a little bit about what happens when they put two pawns trying to control one square, how you can neutralize their knight, how he doesn't have the same way to stop you. So it's interesting how you can utilize the a5, a4 pawn push. These are things to keep in mind. The knight h2 defense for your king. Anyway, good luck on your chess. Submit your rapid games in my Discord. Goodbye.